Let's now go back to one of our top stories for today, and this pertains to the Palestinians who arrived on Thursday on that chartered flight and were left stranded at the OR Tambo International Airport for 13 hours. They've since been processed. And for more on this, let's now discuss this issue in detail with the Executive Director of the Afro-Middle East Center, Naim Jenner. And he joins us now via our video link. Naim, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Now, we saw those group of Palestinians who arrived on Thursday and they were left stranded for hours at the OR Tambo International Airport. And from what the BMA was saying was issues around, of course, their passports, not having the necessary stamp, and at the same time not having the necessary, the addresses of where they will be living. But at the same time, we now know that Gift of the Givers has since intervened and they are now being responsible for those group of Palestinians. What do you make of how this issue was handled when the group arrived, despite us knowing what is taking place in the Middle East?
The way it was handled was very bad. I mean, you had a group of people, 160 people, including several children, several babies, babies who were wearing nappies that hadn't been changed in a day, multiple kind of messes in there, and they were not allowed off the plane, and it was really hot. I mean, the least that BMA could have done is set up a holding room where they could be put into before they were processed or a decision was made, but they were left on the plane for hours. The airline didn't supply them any food. They only received water many hours after the 8 o'clock landing. The air supply on the plane was terrible. So it was really bad the way they were treated. And then BMA says that all of these people wanted to be tourists, and if they wanted to be tourists, clearly BMA was correct in that they didn't fulfill the requirements. They didn't have any proof of an exit. Because the Israelis didn't give them an exit stamp or the B/2 form. They didn't have accommodation, they didn't have a return ticket, of course, because they're refugees. And they should have been treated as refugees. And then when people said that they wanted to apply for asylum, BMA acted as if they didn't hear that. We have videos of people saying we want to apply for asylum, and the BMA pretended that they didn't hear it. It's actually very bad, and very bad that the Minister of Home Affairs supported that position right until he was instructed at 7 o'clock at night by the president to change.
And Naim, what do you make in terms of the statement from the South African Zionist Federation when it comes to those exit stamps, saying that, well, Israel has done away with physical stamps and it now has electronic stamps in terms of giving those leaving the country, of course, with a physical stamp and now using this electronic slip?
No, the Zionist Federation is just is obfuscating things in order to protect Israel, as they usually do. The fact is that for most air departures, Israel does not use a stamp in the passport. What happens is when you enter Israel, you get a B/2 form, and that's the form that you use when you leave. Though on land borders, they sometimes still use the stamp. The point is, irrespective of stamp form, etc. The point is, Israel gave these people no evidence that they exited Israel. Whether it's a stamp, a form, electronic, whatever the case is, they were given nothing. They entered from Gaza, they entered on buses into Israel. There is no evidence that they entered Israel. They left Israel. There's no evidence that they left Israel. The Israelis essentially trafficked these people, not telling them where they're going, etc., sending them without those that kind of evidence. So to come up with, was it a form, was it a stamp, was it an electronic chip, is just obfuscating the issue in order to protect a genocidal regime in Israel.
And just looking at your statement in which you released a few moments ago, you raised the issue around human trafficking and also pinning this on Israel. But at the same time, when it comes to, the condition of the group of 100 and now 30 Palestinians who are in the country, in what condition are they in? Have they been accommodated? And where are they being accommodated? Are they safe?
So they finally came out on Thursday night at about 10 o'clock. We spent the next 2 hours or so processing them, arranging transport for them, and arranging accommodation. All of them have been accommodated in different parts of Johannesburg, some in hotels, some in people's homes, some in houses and flats that people made available for them. The Johannesburg community, I must say, has been incredible in dealing with this, at a moment's notice, opening up their homes, providing food. Today there was a whole day of medical services provided for that group, all of course pro bono by doctors, pharmacists, etc. So all of that is taking place, and it's South Africans from Johannesburg that are really stepping up
Yeah.
to play a kind of humanitarian role.
And going back to your statement, Naim, you've characterized this saying that this is human trafficking and you're laying it at the doorstep of Israel. Why do you say that this is human trafficking?
Well, if you put people on a plane, even if they've paid some money, you put people on a plane without telling them where they're going. You do it in a way that the legality is compromised, not giving them any exit documents or proof. You give them hotel bookings that, I mean, one person had a hotel booking for Mumbai. Another one had a hotel booking for Kuala Lumpur, and then you dump them in a third country with no plans made for how they will be dealt with, looked after, etc. That's human trafficking. I mean, what better definition can you get of it? They got on this whole thing is a project by some organization called Al Majd, which works with the Israelis, which arranges these kinds of things with the Israelis. So they went from Gaza across the Kerem Shalom crossing, allowed through by Israeli soldiers, got to an Israeli airbase in Ramon. All of this was done in collaboration with the Israelis. And the suspicion that this organization, which is very dubious, its so-called address in Germany, it doesn't exist at that address. It claims to be registered in Germany. It's not. It claims to be around for 10 years. It's only around for about 3 years. All of this, an organization that many suspect works with Israeli intelligence, but clearly it is part of the project of the Israeli state.
All right, Naim, thank you so much for your time. That is Naim. He is the Executive Director for Afro Middle East Center there.